You've been listening to the True Idaho News Podcast. Unfiltered news and opinion for the citizens of Idaho. Get more true news by visiting trueidahonews.com. If you'd like to support this podcast, visit trueidahonews.com/support. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everybody. Shane Class here and Daniel Bobinski on True Idaho News. Good morning, Daniel. How are you this bright and shiny Wednesday morning?
It's going to be a bright and shiny Wednesday morning. I'm loving the weather. It's awesome here in southern Idaho.
Oh, it is. It's been absolutely wonderful. We finally got away a little bit over the weekend, got a little bit of rest, and then we're just right back at it because I got a wedding coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes, it's on my calendar.
Don't forget. We're going to enjoy having you come down here. It's been a little bit since we've seen you in person, and I always seem to see you right here like this. So it'll be good having you come down and enjoying that. So happy things are coming, but at the same time, we have a lot of craziness going on in the world, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? Is all the craziness, and I wish all we had to talk about was sunshine and rainbows, but unfortunately, they've turned the rainbow into an abomination, and that's where we are. It's PRIDE month.
Oh gosh. Well, just a little warning for you, just so you know. I've been in sarcasm mode the past week. I've just been looking at the news and I'm going, oh my gosh, the sarcasm. And so the sarcasm is kind of bubbling up. So if it boils over a little bit today, just a little forewarning on that. But
let
I got
her
to
rip,
thinking
let
about
her
it.
fly.
Okay. I did get to thinking about it, and it was like, we do need to focus on what we can do.
Yes.
That which is before us, right? And do what is right locally in our circle of control. There's lots of stuff out there we can bitch, moan, and complain about, right? That is going wrong in the world. But those are areas in our circle of concern. We're concerned about these things.
Yeah.
We have no control over them. Really, the best thing we can do is stay in our circle of control and do that which is close and what we have some control over. And we can make a difference if we do that. I just want to start my snarky comments before I get into the snarkiness.
You know what I like about the circle of control? I spent a lot of money, not my money. I got to spend a lot of somebody else's money. It was a company I was working for to go to a program that was down in Vegas, Sin City. But the program that they sent me to was phenomenal, and the speaker talked a little bit about those circles. And I have to remind myself sometimes when I'm looking at the news, when I'm looking at what's going on around the world, when I'm looking at the people around me, and I wonder why conservatives don't act more. And I'm reminded of this all the time, and it's what calms me back down a little bit. As he said, if you have 3 circles and you start with the inner circle being these are the things I can control. The next circle out are the things that I can influence, and then the next circle out is those that I cannot influence or control. And in the center circle, I have to remind myself the things that I can control are my activity and my attitude, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in control of my activity. I'm in control of my attitude and how things affect me. But everything else either falls into the line of influence or things like the weather that I can neither influence nor control. And so it keeps me grounded. I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of that when you talked about the circle of control. But this is what we do here. We try to influence our government, and we try to influence you, the people who are watching this right now, to get involved and do something about your government, because altogether we can have a lot of influence over our government. But if all we do is gripe and moan about it and we don't actually get involved, there's really, it falls completely outside of it into that thing that we're neither influencing or controlling. And we're supposed to control our government.
It's a bottom-up system.
Yep.
It's a bottom-up system. And we get lazy and we think, oh, they're elected. That's their job. And I've actually heard our elected officials say that. You elected us, let us take care of it. It's like, no, this is a bottom-up. You are a representative. You are to represent our views. And if you're not talking with us and listening to us, then you're not representing our views.
That's
So
right. Speaking of which, you had some headlines today that you had a few snarky comments to dive in.
I
So
was looking
let's
at
get
the
into it.
headlines
Let's.
last night, and I thought, I'm going just kind of scrolling through the headlines on the news aggregator, and I'm thinking, comment. I got a comment for that. I got a comment for that. So thank you for allowing me to just vent here
Oh, let's
as
do
we
it.
people
Uh,
come on board here. Um, I'll just kind of fly through these real fast. The Ohio investigation finds evidence of non-citizen voter registrations and double voting. It's like, duh, duh. We've been trying to tell you that for 5 years now, and you wouldn't listen to us. And just now it's coming out. Duh.
What's one of the most fun things about the Trump administration going on right now? I mean, there's things that we can complain about. There's things that we love, but yeah, I think what I like the most right now is what are we going to call this? The vindication. The the Greek conspiracy theorists are suddenly becoming the oh, you were right people, and I think that's oh Lord, it's hard to be humble, but we try.
Well, we're going to need, as you've probably seen the meme, we're going to need some new conspiracy theories because all the previous ones have come true. So
Yes, yes.
here we go. Tampon Tim Walz. That's the nickname they have for this guy. He's the former candidate for vice president of the United States. He says Democrats needs to be meaner and bully the blank out of Trump.
Can they get
Does
any
that
meaner?
sound like civilized politics to you?
Wow. No, not a bit. But it sounds par for the course. I mean, when you look at how at when you don't have anything of substance, so you don't have facts to back you up. You don't have you don't have you're not on the right side of history. Then what do you have left? Riot, get mean, be I mean and that's all they have. They're ad hominems because they don't have anything else to stand on. So I mean,
Well,
that's
tied to
par for the
that, we
course.
have Cuomo, former New York governor, right? Says he's going to run for New York City mayor, and he's going to, this is a quote, I'm going to spend 8 years in Washington fighting Trump if he wins. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. If you're elected to be the mayor of New York, shouldn't you be spending your 8 years in New York, governing the city of New
Yeah.
York instead of down in Washington battling with the president?
This still reminds me of my biological father. One of the most valuable lessons. I accidentally left on my cell phone, and I went into a customer's house. I was in sales at the point in time, and he owned the company that the branch of the company I was working for. And the customer asked me. I was selling windows. He asked me about a competitor's window, and I responded, and ended up making the sale. But when I got done and I left, and I called my biological father to say, hey, I sold it. He goes, yeah, I heard. And he goes, but I want to talk to you about something. He goes, there's two ways to have the tallest building in town, Shane. You can spend all your time tearing down somebody else's, or you can just focus on building yours bigger and more beautiful. And when you spend your time focused on tearing down everybody else's, you're known as a tyrant, and you're not very popular. And I look at that in the world today. What is the left doing? All they do is they spend their time trying to tear down Trump's big, beautiful deal. Well,
Oh, yeah.
if you got such a great program, why don't you focus on just showing us how great it is?
And this wasn't a headline I pulled down, but it's something I saw this morning. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, came out and says that all ICE representatives are akin to Nazis. I'm going, how is that helping our government operate as it's supposed to?
Yeah.
This is a government operation.
All
I
they
suppose,
have
though,
is
if the ICE
destruction.
people were coming after conservatives, he'd be go for it, go for it. You do your job, ICE people.
Yep, yep. But
Here we go. Experts warn the world is hurtling towards a new catastrophic nuclear war that could end civilization as we know it. And I read that
yeah.
headline and I go, bring it on, please. We're done. Let's
Yeah,
go meet our maker.
yeah. The nuclear war. I mean, that's kind of final. That just kind of that's the total end of all of it. I
That
would
was my
hope
snark.
that I'd hope that we could find a way to just tear everything down and start over. But nuclear war, there's no starting that over.
Which is what, by the way, the Marxists want to do. In order for Marxism
Yeah.
to work, you have to tear down what exists and rebuild up with Marxism. Because then if you've torn everything down and taken everything away from people, then anything you give them, they're grateful for. And that's how the Marxists operate. So
Yeah.
Here we go. The link between birth control and brain cancer is now so obvious that even corporate media cannot pretend it's just misinformation. Again, I just read that and went, duh.
Yep. Oh, I'm going to throw an interesting one out there, and I haven't had a chance to fact check this, by the way. But the source was reliable, so I'll pop it out there and encourage you to go fact check this. But I don't have a hard time believing this. Japan, way back when they started noticing all of these incidents of sudden SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, they made the decision to halt all vaccinations on children until they're 2 years old, and SIDS virtually went away.
Okay, I saw that headline. I've already fact checked it several weeks ago. It's been making the rounds on the social media platforms past couple of weeks. And so I already did fact check it.
Oh.
And it's not true. It is, what they did was they gave permission to parents to say, we don't want the vaccines. And to those kids who chose not to get, the parents who chose not to vaccinate their kids, those are the parents. Those are the kids.
That's why I like doing this show with you, Daniel.
Incidences dropped significantly. So the country did not make it a blanket thing, no, but they gave parents the right. So that it is a true but false. There's some facts in there, but it's elaborated. But this is why it's important for us to, we see something on social media, go online and investigate. You've got the world. I'm pick up my little phone here. I think there's more technology in your hand here than what they used to get to the moon. So you pick it up and just start fact checking this stuff yourself.
And that's why I like doing this with you. And this is why I will always tell you, if I haven't had a chance to fact check something, I'm going to tell you I haven't had a chance to fact check this. So go dig it up. But the end result is the same, though. The end result is vaccinations at birth are not good. And a statement could also be made vaccinations in general, but this particular study, it proves the point. Don't do that to your kids until, at the very least, until they're a couple years old. I'll leave it up to you to decide what you can do after that.
Keeping Things Real page on my Facebook page, it's Keeping Things Real. This morning I posted a video of two parents being interviewed. They gave their, I think, 18 or 24-month-old kid their vaccinations, and the child was dead within 34 hours. Yeah. At some point, people are going to realize that doctors don't care about much except their profits.
Yeah.
Most doctors, not all.
At the some good ones. I would even venture to take that even a step further and say, if your doctor is part of a big medical organization, that it's the organization that is the evil one that does not care about your kids. They only care about their bottom line. And there's a lot of good doctors that have been duped or bullied into conforming to what that organization wants.
Yeah. So as a quick add to that, when COVID was in full rage and people were bringing hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin to the hospital with a letter from their lawyer holding the hospital harmless if the medication caused any damage to if the patient died, they wanted to try to save their loved one, and the doctors would not allow it to be administered.
That's right.
And it was just terrifying to watch these things go down, the control these people had on our lives. They're not gods. They think they are. And so I was at a dinner and I met a nurse who worked at one of the major hospitals in town. And I said, why won't doctors prescribe ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine? And she goes, we had the same question. And she said, when every doctor we walked up to and asked, they would just look at us, turn and walk away, except for one old doctor who looked at her very sadly and said, I was told that if I prescribed those medications, I would lose my job.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories.
So
that's disgusting.
That's because the hospitals made so much money on COVID deaths. They didn't care about life. They cared about their bottom line.
Yeah. And that's disgusting.
Speaking of that kind of information, here's another headline. Over 1,000 people a month in the UK are arrested for their social media posts.
Oh, I've been hearing that. 1,000 people per month. We talked about that just a little bit before we started the show and did some quick math. And we came up with that is like 20 people per state per month. Imagine 20 people in your state being arrested right now for social media posts. I guarantee I'd be on the front lines because you're not going to shut me up. They'd be
Not
arresting
that
me every
far.
month.
Well, we go back to an ICE thing here. Homan, this is the guy who's always just taking nothing off nobody when he testifies before Congress. He is convinced. This is his quote: "Convinced that there's going to be a large-scale terror attack in the United States because Biden's open border policy lets so many people in."
Mm.
And so, with that, by the way, we just saw Ukraine do a drone attack against Russia and really took out a large percentage of Russia's fighting capabilities. And Russia's like, okay, you want to play? We're going to play. And I don't think they're going to play nice anymore.
No. Well, and on that note, I got to hand it to the Ukrainians, even I mean, it being such a small country, and the ingenuity that they used when they did this. They were taking like barns, portable barns, portable sheds, and in the area between the roof on the outside and the ceiling on the inside is where they hid all of these drones. And then they took those and they put them on trucks. They had to plan this for about a year and a half. And you just know Zelensky was sitting there just going, "Oh man, if we have a peace deal, I don't get to see this through. I don't get to see this through. We got to hit the go button on this." But they were putting them strategically into Russia. So they were just shipping them. So Russia just thought, hey, they're just shipping barns over here, no big deal. Well, then that top popped off of those, out came the drones, and those are the ones that they use. So I mean, they were saying you got to hand it to them on the ingenuity, going up against the big bad Russia, so to speak, for what they are. But it's awful interesting the timing of Lindsey Graham being over there the day before.
Yeah, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him.
Yeah, well, that's
but
not
I was
very
going to say another headline about attacks in the United States. I was reading that I think it was General Flynn was warning that it's very possible NATO might try to draw the United States into that conflict by creating a false flag attack in the United States to try to draw the United States in. Again, who knows,
they
right?
just had a bridge that there was a IED on, and they managed to catch it, find it, and take it off first. I can't remember where that bridge was. I wish I could right now. I wasn't prepared, but so they just found one. So they're already trying. They're already trying, and it's going to be interesting to see what the U.S. does in response to that. But with Lindsey going over there and telling Russia that we're coming after you, why haven't they arrested Lindsey Graham already? Because he's over there doing the job of the president, and he's not supposed to be doing this. That's against the law. So why are we allowing this to happen?
Welcome to America, where the rules are made up and the laws don't matter.
Yeah.
No. Speaking of laws not mattering, remember the laptop hoax?
How can I forget?
Mr. John Brennan was the CIA director, and he's signed on to this letter of 52 or 53, 54 intelligence experts or former intelligence. All this Hunter Biden story has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. That was so planned, so beautifully done. They didn't come out and said it was. It said it had all the earmarks. And what did we report on the legacy media? What do we hear all the time? It's just Russian disinformation. Headline: Brennan is now terrified that Trump is going to do to him what he spent years doing to Trump. It's like, do it, Trump. Do it.
Just already, come on. We've been waiting.
All right, I think I'm almost done with my headlines. Except I saved the best for last. Oh no, I take that back. Trump administration has authorized a new COVID mRNA vaccine experimental injection with no testing. To me, the deep state is still alive and well.
You've got to wonder. The FBI under the Biden administration, I mean, they've been corrupt a long time before that. But under the Biden administration, they were given so much levity to just do the evil deeds that they do and gather the information they gathered. Epstein, we don't see anything coming out about Epstein in the files. And then you see Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and them now coming out and saying, oh, no, Epstein didn't kill himself. Or Epstein killed himself.
He did kill himself.
Yeah, Epstein killed himself. It was suicide. And then you see this kind of garbage happening, even though we've got RFK in there. And you just have to start asking yourself, what do they have on these guys? Or what did they take their family already and just to show that they can get to them? And I mean, how evil, how deep has it gotten? Because I'm baffled. Dan Bongino, that one specifically really baffles me. Yeah. And it's got my fiance and I were having this conversation. Rhonda and I were talking about it over dinner, and it was, and just, why have they flipped? How have they flipped? We're lost if these people are flipping. And you have to say, well, I can't tell you what I would do if somebody just figuratively speaking, happen to take my family and or put them in some kind of duress and prove to me that they can get at them. They're going to get at them if I don't say these things. And I wish I could say that I would hold the line, and I would hope that I would hold the line. But until you're in that situation, I don't think you could. And so they've got all sorts of tools that they can use. That we've been around the world, that we've been building and tearing down regimes, and that our CIA has been doing that, and our evil government has already been doing these types of things. So yeah, sure, they can get at you. Sure, they can get at you. You got to wonder, just what do they have? What do they have, and what's going on behind the scenes? Because this doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense unless you see it for what it is. I'm sorry, that one really gets at me, because I'm just sick. I'm sick and tired of this, and we don't. I'm giving it to the end of the year before I really just say all hope is lost. I hope, and this is maybe just holding out false hope, but I hope that they're just buying time so that they can put their case together, so they can come out and say, okay, here it all is. And it takes a little time to put that together, but I'm losing hope quickly.
You're waiting for the end of the calendar year?
I'm waiting till the end of the calendar year to call it lost.
Well, I think Elon Musk is in your boat. And I saw you posted something on social media yesterday. It got a lot of attention. How Elon, this was the headline, and you actually have it here, I think. Yep. Here's Elon. And this is, I'm thinking Elon Musk must have listened to our podcast from a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this big, beautiful bill, and how it's not a big, beautiful bill. It's a big, beautiful spending package, which is going to send us, I looked at something last night. If this bill goes into effect, if it passes as is in 2029, 4 years from today, our national debt will have gone to $46.7 trillion. That's about 10 trillion more than it is today. And we talked, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, I forget how Elon, and here's Donald and Elon sitting right next to each other, and Elon saying, if we don't get rid of the debt, the country's toast. And Trump is nodding his head, and here's this big, beautiful bill. And so you've got Thomas Massey took all kinds of heat in the House for coming out against the bill. Senator Rand Paul is being bullied by President Trump right now. President Trump says he's going to come against Rand Paul if he doesn't support the bill. And so Elon Musk comes out against the bill, and it's like, okay, these guys, at least Musk might have been listening to our show, because I say this in jest, right?
Yeah,
but
right.
The point being, we were waving the yellow caution flag on this before it was cool, and now I'm seeing a lot more people talking about it, and it needs to be talked about. And this is the danger that we have when you have a populist president. And again, I'm very much glad that Trump is in office. I voted for Trump. I support so much of what he does, but he's a man. He's susceptible to sin. And part of that is the deep state operations. As we just got done talking, we don't know what they've done to him, what they've threatened him or his family. And this big, beautiful bill is going to add $10 trillion to our debt. That's not just coming from the conservative conspiracy people out there. That's coming from the Office of the OBM, budget and management. So we've got very serious concerns here with this bill, and it's not a big, beautiful bill for everybody. It's a big, beautiful bill for spending, and that's going to be the death of this country.
It is. And for those who aren't watching this on the screen, I want to just go ahead and read what Elon posted. He said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." And I agree with him. I agree with him completely that that there's so much. He also posted, and I was just trying to pull it up to see if I had it over here. But he also, with that, there was a post that showed our deficit. And of course, that's when the amount we're spending is more than we're bringing in, and what has been year over year for the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's billions some years, trillions other years. And do you know how massive that is? If you have a deficit of billions, is bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're talking like a $500 billion, not just a couple billion. We're talking about $600 billion up to $3 trillion in deficits. That's not sustainable. Folks, if your family is spending more money than you're bringing in every year, it doesn't matter how much you have in savings. Eventually it runs out. It doesn't matter how many assets you have. Eventually you've sold them all. It doesn't matter. And if you run your family like that, you're going to go under. If we run our nation like this, we're toast. And Elon, I don't care what you think about him, but here's the one thing that Elon is dead set focused on: saving humanity. That's his 100% focus. And it was and it was going to Mars so he could save humanity. And whether you believe that that's going to happen or not, and whether that's the salvation of humanity or not, he's autistic. He's got this laser focus: save humanity. And he shifted that focus over to the United States and the world. And he's looking at us and he's going, we're not going to have a country anymore. And if we don't have a country anymore, where's he going to operate to save humanity? And he sees the crash that's coming, and he's a smart guy. We ought to be listening to him on this one.
Absolutely, we should. And he's right. It's like Ronald Reagan said, America is the last beacon of hope in the world, and if America goes down, where do we go? It's the last place.
And it's even more so today than it was then. You know, where are we going to go? There's nowhere left. Some people at that point in time in Reagan say, well, we can go over to the UK. Take a look at them now, folks. You want to go over there where you get arrested for making a social media post? Have at it.
Did you see the picture of the guy doing this on purpose? He had a Muslim man in the street with his prayer blanket in the street, doing one of his 5 daily prayers right in front of a trolley. So the trolley could not move, had to wait for him to finish his prayers. This is the attitude that we're going to see. It's already happening. You're reading these things in Dearborn, Michigan, where I read this guy, he was being interviewed. And he goes, I'm so tired of having to smile to these white people, to these kafir, which is the slang term in Islam for someone who's not Islamic. And they are putting on a show, but it's a slow moving invasion. It really is. I'm not being a racist. I'm not being a sexist. This is what it is.
It is what it is.
The whole Islamic, and we've talked about this, you and I, on the phone past couple of weeks, that the Islamic thing is not just a religion. It is a religion and a military and a political system. It's all three in one. And most people don't realize that. They don't know that. I should probably do a workshop on worldview, and maybe we'll do that. You know what?
I mean, it'd be fun.
Brainstorm here. Maybe it'll be a True Idaho News sponsored event. We'll do a workshop, a seminar on worldviews, and let people know what's really going on in this world.
I think it's a fantastic idea because you have to if you don't understand what their ideology is, what their philosophy, what their plan has always been, and it talks about infiltrating the infidel and then rising up from within. That is their plan. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is their plan, written in black and white. That is what their plan is to infiltrate our society and then take us over from within. and they know that's how they win. And you see it happening in Europe. That's not a racist thing to say. It's not an anti-religious thing for their religion or their culture or anything else. It's a truth. And if you don't understand that, then when you look at everything that's happening around the world, of course you're going to be a little bit confused. But when you understand that is their plan, you look at it and you say, their plan is working.
Mhm.
And that's terrifying. And it's working here in the United States, folks. It's terrifying because they're going to topple us, and if we don't wake up in a hurry and start doing something different. But
As you're talking, we should probably have a pool and to find out, okay, which aspect of the enemies of our Constitution is going to come out on top? Is it going to be the transgenders? Is it going to be the Islam, the Muslims? Is it going to be the Marxists? Of course, but all of them are kind of tied together in a way. But it'd almost be kind of funny to see which organization is the one that pushes us over, which is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
I don't know if fun is the word, but it would be interesting. It would certainly be interesting. So on that, just shifting to your, it takes us right into our next topic. Why are they always grooming children? Because it is a race. It's a race to the end. It's a race to the destruction of our country. And I saw this week. This is making its rounds on X right now, and it's a post by Sesame Street, and folks are coming for your kids. And we've been saying this for years. And they've infiltrated Sesame Street. And it says, on our street, everyone is welcome. Together, let's build a world where every person and family feels loved and respected for who they are. Happy Pride Month. Thoughts?
Well, I've been saying this for decades, actually. Being an avid Christian, it's not Daniel Bobinski's viewpoint, it's God's viewpoint, and he calls that kind of behavior an abomination. It's not just a sin. I mean, stealing a pencil is a sin. What they were talking about here is an abomination to
That's
God.
right.
And when you normalize something in a child's mind, it's an emotional imprint. I'm a certified behavioral analyst. I'm a certified motivational analyst. And when you emotionally imprint somebody, it stays with them forever. It takes a long time. But my sad heart says, okay, here's something that's an abomination to God. All right, it's a sin, really. And then we're going to put the other sin of pride on top of that. So we're going to be prideful about so we have a sin about a sin. We're being prideful about our sin, and they're just layering it up. And it's so, it's just like trying to cover something up, as we just got done talking about with Islam. Right.
Yeah.
So people say you're racist. Well, no, there's white people who are Islamic. How can it be racist? Right. We're talking about a religion, a military, and a political system. That's what we're talking about here. So with the pride thing, we're talking about an indoctrination system for sin to our kids to normalize it. And this is, unless you're walking with the Lord, sorry, you take a look at this is the book that's on my desk and has been on my desk for decades. Original Intent, read the book. If you want to understand what this country is supposed to be about, our Constitution is not broken.
That's right.
The United States Supreme Court has, since the early 1800s, been passing judgment on things out of context from what the document actually intended. And it's just roller coasted since then. I don't think we've had a really good Supreme Court in a long time who really takes a look at the original intent of the Constitution.
I just brought up our Supreme Court again, and we talked about this on the show recently, that is evidence that Trump doesn't walk on water, folks. Take a look at your Supreme Court. I love Trump. Okay. I love Trump. I support Trump, but you need to understand he is not infallible. He doesn't walk on water. He is still a human being. And you look at his Supreme Court appointments and a lot of the bad decisions coming out of our Supreme Courts came from Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he appointed him. And so, yes, he does make mistakes, and we need to be willing to call it out when it's a mistake. It's not anti-MAGA. It's not anti-Trump to say, hey, you know what, this, it's a good idea, but it needs a little tweaking. It needs a little work. Let's take it back to the drawing boards. Let's put the brakes on a little bit. We don't have to just ramrod everything through that he thinks is a great idea. Let's study to show thyself approved. Just like you were supposed to do with your Bible. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of the truth. It's not your pastor's job to tell you what is right or wrong. It is your job to hear what he says and then divide it, look at it, and prove it. And if it doesn't pass a smell test, we're supposed to say, hold on a minute, Pastor, this isn't quite right. We're supposed to do the same thing in our government. Hold on, Trump, this may not be quite right. Maybe we should let the states decide what they want to do with AI rather than blocking them for the next decade from being able to write their own regulations on AI. Maybe we should do some more things to reduce our deficit in this bill rather than just letting it scream up another $2.5 trillion. So
each year.
So, we got to think a little bit more, people, and we got to stop just listening to what some talking head has to tell us, no matter how good they are. And we need to start using this area between our two ears here and say, for more than just to hold a hat. Okay. And actually start using it to think a little bit for ourselves instead of being sheep, or this country is going off a cliff. And speaking of that, you need to be thinking about what you're letting your kids watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sesame Street back in my day, hey, I was a Sesame Street kid. I was a PBS kid. That's what we did. Instead of popping them down in front of an iPhone, we handed them the TV and said, here's a remote control, and we trusted that it would be safe. But this very same Sesame Street's been up to this for a while, grooming kids. And we're not talking just about LGBTQ. They've been doing this.
Elmo, but I have to say it's wonderful.
Let's go again at that.
Elmo, but I have to say it's wonderful to actually see all of you. It also sounds and looks like you and your families have been staying healthy.
Oh, I have a way I've been staying healthy, Dr. Sanjay. Look.
Oh, does Rosita have a boo-boo?
Oh, no, Amita, this is from my COVID vaccine. My mommy and my papi took me to get it this morning. See, my mommy and my papi said that it will help keep me, my friends, my neighbors, my abuela, all healthy.
And it goes on from there along the same lines. They haven't just been grooming your kids about LGBTQ plus whatever the alphabet is these days. They're grooming them on everything the left wants, leftist ideology. And if that's what you want for kids, pop them down in front of it and let them have at it. But this isn't good, guys.
No,
your thoughts?
It's not. No, well, my thoughts are exactly what you just said. It's indoctrination, and I actually am a little older. My younger sister grew up on Sesame Street, and I was watching my younger sister watch Sesame Street. But so vicariously, I'm kind of sitting there watching it with her. But my point being is that back in the day, they're talking about unity and doesn't matter what color you are. And it was all the things and stuff that I was raised on, right? We bring people together. And now they're talking about racism, this, racism, that. And they're talking about division, and they're not just trying to indoctrinate into this deep state mentality, but they're actually working to divide the country nowadays. Some of the stuff that I've seen. This is amazing how they indoctrinate. It is a word. It's what you said. It's indoctrination.
It is. It's deep indoctrination. And is it just a one-off? No, this is just from a couple years ago.
Just in time for Father's Day, the show released a new episode featuring a family with two gay dads in celebration of Pride Month. On the episode titled Family Day, we meet the husbands, played by Chris Costa and Alex Wiseman, and their daughter, played by Olivia Perez. In a post on Instagram and Facebook, the co-director on the episode celebrated its airing, writing, quote, "Love is love, and we are so happy to add this special family to our Sesame family," end quote.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
Why do they want your kids so bad? That's my big question. Why does this alphabet community want your kids so bad?
So for those that couldn't hear, that was kind of hard for me to hear, but I managed to pick it up. But he was talking, you had two men being introduced to the Sesame Street gang and how they were married, and it was basically normalizing a gay couple. And doesn't bother me, but it was an interracial gay couple. but they're trying to push
check the
what they call
boxes.
intersectionality, right? As many minorities as they can weave into it, the better. And you look at the indoctrination, and you say, why? That's the question you're raising here, right? Why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
I mean, it's gross at best. I mean, it's
Well, I want
gross
to talk
at
about
best.
the love thing, because they said love is love, right? And my ministry, I mean, having sold True Idaho News to you and focusing more on the ministry side of things, my ministry is called GC2 Ministries, Great Commandment, Great Commission. And so the Great Commission is to make disciples. The Great Commandment is to love the Lord and love your neighbor as yourself. And I've been doing classes on love for 3 decades now, a biblical perspective of love. And so this is what the problem is people do not understand the biblical definition of love. They think it means warm, fuzzy, embrace you no matter what. And that's not what the Bible teaches. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not rude. It's not proud. Those are all action words, what you do or don't do in terms of a relationship. It's not about embracing somebody's sin. So to say love is love, what they're trying to do in that is say, well, doesn't the Bible teach we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves? And they're taking the word love out of context, using a different definition. There's actually multiple Greek words that can be used for the one English word love. You got the eros love, which is what they're talking about. Eros is sexual, intimate love. You've got the family love, which is like a storge love, a love of a mother for a daughter. You've got Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And then you've got agape love, which is the biblical love that God talks about, the kind of love that God has for us. So unfortunately, here's these 4 concepts of love in the Greek and our Bibles translate it all as love, one word, English word. We got a problem then when the left is trying to use that to their advantage to say, well, this lust or whatever. And I'm not saying that you can't have love. I mean, take a look at the biblical aspect of Jonathan and David when the nation of Israel first started off, and David loved Jonathan. And the people on the left will say, well, that was a homosexual relationship. There is no evidence of that. That was a Philadelphia type love.
Yep.
Brotherly love.
Brotherly love, not sexual love. And that's right. But that's what they do. They want to, the left has figured out how to control language. If we switch language around and change the meaning of words, now they have this gotcha. And we can't let them do that. We need they're doing the same thing with the rainbow. What a beautiful just a beautiful image that God gave us to remind us that in his promise that he was not going to use water to destroy the earth again. And so, that's,
and why did he destroy the earth? Because of all the rampant sin.
Yeah. The hedonism. That was one part of it. And it was rampant all the way around. But I mean, specifically Sodom and Gomorrah and the things that were going on wasn't just happening inside, it was happening everywhere. And then we look at the world today and we're like, okay, well, he's not going to use water. He promised that, but he didn't promise he wouldn't do it again. And in fact, we know it's going to happen. And as we look at the world today, I think, man, I know every generation has done this. You can look back into the 50s, the 60s, the 40s, and everybody has said, oh, it's our generation. Our generation is when God's going to come again. But when I look around, I start looking at the signs that are in the Bible, and I look at where we're at today. We're a stone's throw away. There's not much more that has to happen. We're there.
Not at all. And but I'm going to throw in a plug here, a self-promotion, if I may.
Have at it.
If people want to learn about the Bible, I teach a Bible study on Sunday mornings here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho at the corner of Eagle Road and Ustick Road. There's a restaurant called Dalton Royal. And they were very gracious to let us come in. They're letting us use their restaurant on Sunday mornings before they open for business. So we can get in there at 10 o'clock in the morning. We get there at 9:45, whatever. We start discussing scripture at 10 o'clock. We go to 11 o'clock. That's when they officially open. And there's no songs. There's no passing of the plate, the collection plate. All we do is discuss the Bible. So if anybody wants to discuss the Bible, it's a conversation. It's not a sermon. I don't do a sermon. It's a conversation. about scriptural things. So if people want to learn about the Bible, they are free to join the ministry there at Dalton Royal on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock.
And let me say, the conversations that Daniel and I have, speaking of conversations, are some of my favorite. When I would travel to Boise to sit down on your show when you were doing your radio show, some of our best conversations happened after we turned the camera off. Yeah. And we would just sit there and talk, and we would say over and over again, man, I wish we had the camera and the microphones on now. This is really good. So I can tell you, I haven't had a chance to come up and sit in one of yours, and I plan on doing that, by the way, getting up there and taking part in your Bible study that you're doing, and those conversations, because Daniel is very well educated. He's not just speaking from a place of shooting from the hip. He's very well educated, and he's very well educated in the Bible. And if he's going to have a conversation about something, he doesn't come at it willy-nilly. He studies and he understands it. So I want to throw that in there as well. I guarantee you that it is a deep, insightful, and thoughtful conversation, and not some willy-nilly thing like you're going to get. And I'm going to make some people mad, but at the Methodist Church. So, yeah.
Well, I will say this too, that if I don't know something, if something comes up in conversation and I don't know it, I'll tell you. I don't know. But I also, every Sunday morning, I say, look, do not believe anything I say.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier, go do your own research. Like the Bible talks about the Bereans were more noble than the Thessalonians because they went out and researched the scripture to see if what Paul was saying was true. And I say the same thing on Sunday mornings. Do not believe what I say. I'm going to present information during our discussion. Go to the scripture yourself. Yeah. Research it yourself. Do not believe what I say.
And that's, and if your pastor or whoever you're talking to doesn't approach a subject with that kind of humility, run. And we're circling all the way back. I hate that I use circle back, but again, they've stole that. Okay, but we're kind of circling back where we started here, which was this, Trump doesn't walk on water either. So make sure that you're doing your own studying in that respect as well. Getting back onto why they're always grooming children, we did have a little bit of a wind, and I want to mention the winds as well. So the Boise Pride posted here this was a couple of days ago, but they posted that their Pride season kickoff event was canceled, and they cite that it was that they didn't. But despite strong interest, attendance didn't reach the level needed to hold the event responsibly. Hold on a minute. You have to have the event before you can have attendance that you can cite back to it.
Could you put that back up, please? That second paragraph. We remain committed to growing pride in Boise, but it takes more than excitement. It takes showing up. Boy, they're chiding their community, aren't they?
Oh boy, they are. But just right on the heels of seeing that win, then I had to be reminded that in our great community of Twin Falls, Idaho, it's not just happening in Boise, everybody. So everybody's so focused on Boise, but this is in Twin Falls, and this is the Pride events that they're having here, Twin Falls Pride 2025. And I want to highlight, we need to start doing this, guys. Look at what happened recently with Target. I think this is something that we should be pointing out. So last year, Target, Pride Month, they had all of this disgusting stuff. I mean, even bathing suits that were made with a pocket. So I guess men that wanted to wear a women's bathing suit could do so with their member tucked down under and not showing off so much. And I mean, all of this stuff, they had a whole section dedicated to this disgusting hedonism of pride. And, but this year, it's all red, white, and blue. So they want you now, which shows it's all about the money. They're looking at who they think they can get the money from. And we voted with our dollars, the same thing. They got the Bud Light treatment, and look what happened. They turned around and now they want to pretend that they're all about you. Now, remember, they're not, but it's still a win. It's still a win. We vote with our dollars. And we need to start voting with our dollars in our communities more. And we need to pay attention to who's paying for this garbage and this nonsense. And I did want to highlight that a little bit because obviously their platinum sponsor, Queer Cupboard, we expect that from them. But is that what you expect from St. Luke's? Is that what you want? They come into our community here. They have the largest hospital. They pretty much got a monopoly around here. Granted, there are some other small stuff, but this is St. Luke's. And again, I want to remind everybody, they are a member of IACI. And then you have the Avita Institute. Not big on surprises there because they are, the hairstylist kind of place around town. And we have a lot of them popping up out of there. By a lot of them, I mean the LGBTQ community. But I thought this was interesting, Daniel. This is the gold sponsor, and this is interventional psychiatry. Why are they so interested in Pride? Don't you think they're getting a lot of their customers there? Then, of course, you have KV Custom Creations, Magic Valley Medicine, another medical facility interested in promoting Pride. And
interestingly enough,
yeah.
with the transgender movement and those operations that take place, you speak with these people who have been victims of that. And I use that word purposefully. And the people who have chosen to detransition, they talk about the ungodly amount of money they spend on these surgeries, and the fact that with these surgeries comes a lifetime of medical problems that they have to deal with. So it is when someone decides to transition, and it's a medical transition, whether they call it a top surgery or a bottom surgery, whatever, you're talking about, especially in the bottom surgeries, ongoing lifetime medical problems that these people are reporting.
Non-stop.
And so these medical organizations are, shall we say, in it for the money.
Yeah, they're in it, and that's what they want. They want the money coming out of it. Hands-on, if you're not in Twin Falls, you don't know who they are, but my dad had a radio show, and his co-sponsor or co-anchor on there would take the leftist viewpoint because she was far left, and she's invested in Hands-On, I believe. So that's not surprising there. But and Black Dragon Games, I mean, you just look at this right here. I mean, their logo. It should tell you everything that you need to know about where this is coming from. But this one
surprises me.
This one.
That surprises me. Culligan water. That surprises
Culligan, man. And this is and then another major one, plant therapy. And I looked at this and I went, what is going on here? And PSI.
What's PSI?
They're the garbage company that comes around and picks up your trash.
Really?
Yes, sir. Here in the Magic Valley. So PSI Environmental Systems, and this is why I highlighted all this, because here in Little Twin Falls, Idaho, they are raising a lot of money. Their largest funder, the Pride Foundation, that is sponsoring this Pride deal, was able to donate $7,000. They've got tens of thousands of dollars in their war chest, and it came from companies, even Glanbia. Guys, last year, Glanbia was one of their big sponsors. Glanbia is one of the big companies in our area in agriculture. And what are they doing with this money? And Daniel, I'm circling the airport and I'm bringing her into land. Okay. But this is what's important to know. The Clubhouse Youth Program. And this is what they're doing with that money that they're bringing in. The Clubhouse is Southern Idaho Pride's newly launched youth program, providing a safe and supportive space for the alphabet youth in the Magic Valley at a secure, undisclosed location. Participants, children, gathered to connect, engage in creative activities like pottery and coloring. So how young are these kids? And building community with one another. Back to my point. Why are they always grooming children?
The fact that this is blowing me away. They're taking children to an undisclosed location.
At a secure.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, I have no words for this. This is and this is acceptable. We're supposed to just say, oh, it's for the children.
This came from their 2024 report for the Pride. What is Southern Idaho's Pride? Southern Idaho Pride's newly launched program. This came from the report for last year, right out of the report, and it's available online. You can go look at it and read it yourself, guys. and the amount of money that they're bringing in and the amount of influence that they're building and creating in this community in Twin Falls, which is supposed to be a small agricultural conservative community. But it's scary. It's spooky what these guys, I mean, we had to fight down. They were doing Yellow Brick was having their little trans stuff coming in there and dancing with kids around the room, and they're not here anymore. So I mean, the community can rise up and they can put a stop to this, but where it starts, and here's where I'm gonna make my community. I'm gonna tick them off. But it starts by voting with your dollars and stop supporting these people. Bayer is in there, by the way. Look at the companies that are a part of the sponsors here and stop giving them your money, because this is what they're funding. And they are funding the people that want to take your kids to a secure, undisclosed location and groom them. And until you stop giving them this is how you, just like Target, okay, you may not change their moral code by how they operate, but you can sure change what they're giving their money to if you stop giving your money to these companies. And by the way, for my wedding, I made a phone call to a company yesterday. I was looking for someone to provide some porta potties at our wedding. We're doing this at my sister's house. I didn't want everybody just, 100 and some odd people going in and out of their house. So I better get some porta potties out there. Kind of last minute thought. And I was like, oh yeah, I better get that done.
Good thinking.
Made a phone call to a company, and I started getting the sense that I caught one of these nationwide companies that broker things out. So I asked the question, are you brokering it out to someone local? And they said yes. And I said, who? Because there's one company, PSI, that I don't want to rent my porta potties from because they're giving to this. So I voted with my dollars yesterday. They didn't get my money. I'm giving it to a different company that I believe has got a little bit higher moral fortitude, and you should be doing the same thing.
Good for you.
So
yeah, I know my family's done that too. When we were refinancing our house many years ago, the guy says, okay, well, we're going to set you up with this lender. And I said, no, you're not. And he said, why not? I said, because this, and this. And turns out he was getting some kickback money from it, and he wanted us to go through them. But we knew their values and we didn't want to support them. So yes, people have the right to say, no, I don't want to go through that. You just have to stand up for it.
And there's good. And let me say something. I know one of the big guys down there, salesman over at PSI. He's a good person. So good people work there. I'm not against the people working there. I'm against what the company is donating to. And by the same time, Twin Falls Chamber of Commerce, you need to understand that they allow these people to be members of the Chamber of Commerce. So they're proud members of the Idaho Nonprofit Center. They're proud members of the Chamber of Commerce. But again, we know about IACI. IACI, they basically took over the state chamber. So, yeah. And this is what they're donating to, and this is where your dollars are going to. And you need to be asking yourself, why are they always grooming children? And why aren't these big companies taking note of that? And why are they still supporting it and giving their money to organizations that are doing this to your children? Your children.
So let me, I don't know how we're doing on time, but let me just say,
go for it.
We need to talk about homeschooling at some point. And
yes.
Maybe at some point we can bring some homeschooling advocates on. I mean, well, heck, the Green Book over my shoulder here, my wife and I wrote this about 10 years ago on how it's called Become a Student of Your Students. And it's a book to help parents understand how their kids learn. And it's not just for parents, it's also for teachers. It's just understanding students and how the different learning styles and how to teach the kids so that they learn in ways that they'll remember. Because, I mean, my parchments on the wall over here are having to do with education, and how people learn is part of my wheelhouse. So when you have parents who can teach their kids how to eat with a spoon and tie a shoe, guess what? You're qualified to teach your kids anything. And all you have to be is 2 steps ahead of them on a subject. You don't have to know math. There's so much out there. I've got stuff in my garage I'm getting ready to donate, homeschooling stuff. In fact, let me just say that now. I mean, I'm getting ready to donate. If somebody's watching and wants to get some homeschooling materials, I will give it to you. We're done homeschooling. you can homeschool in this state. You don't have to file any paperwork. You can just choose to do it. And if any school says you have to file paperwork, no, you don't. You can just say, I'm not going to participate in your indoctrination system anymore. I'm going to homeschool my children. You can do that. So that book, will help you understand your kids. I'll give some stuff. There's lots of different, if you don't want to do any of it, you can even take your kids to a co-op and have other parents who are experienced at teaching. They can come in and teach, and then they send you home with the homework for the week, and they just have your kids 1 or 2 days a week in class, and then you got the homework, and that's all you have to do is monitor that. There's lots of different ways to do homeschooling. It's not, you don't have to set up a classroom. Maybe it's a whole nother discussion we can take.
No, well, it's an important one. I just had this conversation with my daughter. I have a granddaughter that's getting up to the age now to start going into school, and she was talking about these things. And you may not know this, folks that are watching, but in February, I believe it was, they signed the. I think they could have done a better job of it, but hey, they did sign a bill. The governor signed it in Idaho to apportion $50 million that's set aside. You get a $5,000 tax deduction or break that goes back to you if you homeschool your kids, because you're not sending them in. The thought process being you're not using the state's resources to send them to school. So we're going to give you some of that money back for you to use your own resources to homeschool your kids or put them into a private school of your choosing. So can
I address that for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have got good friends on both sides of that bill.
Yeah.
Okay. And I happen to be against it because anytime the government grants you some money to do something, they have strings attached to it.
Yes, they do.
I don't care what they say.
Yep.
Now, my wife and I homeschooled our daughter until junior high school. We homeschooled her buying used curriculum. We researched, we found good stuff that was her learning style, and we obtained used curriculum. We spent, ready for this, annually $200.
Yeah.
We spent no more than $200 a year for the equipment we needed to homeschool our daughter and the curriculum we needed. It wasn't until junior high school we had to buy a microscope so we could do science experiments in junior high school that we exceeded that $200 point. So you do not need $5,000 to do it.
No.
You don't. And I'm a strong advocate of get your kids out of that indoctrination system and teach them your values at home.
Yep. We sent our kids to a private church school up until about the 6th grade. And then we made the decision, and this was our personal choice, that to move them to the public schools. Now, today's public schools, I wouldn't do that. And even then I didn't like the public schools, but I wanted my kids to I watched a lot of, growing up in a Christian church, I watched a lot of kids come directly out of homeschooling and then at 18 go into the world after they moved out of their parents' house, and they didn't know how to handle it. And so I didn't want to see that with my kids. So I made the decision to go ahead and send them to the public schools so that now we have a firm foundation, but now they're into the world while they're still under my care. And so we could guide them through that process of integrating them into the world, because you do need to prepare them for the world. It's a scary place out there, but the schools have gotten so bad now, I wouldn't even do that myself in today's schools. But this was, back a few decades, but I mean, it's so important to make sure they have a foundation.
I got some friends, to that point, I got some friends back in Wisconsin that did just what you did. Conservative family, homeschooled, sent them to the public schools for their last couple of years of high school, and all the kids became very left-wing.
Yeah. It's so bad now. It's so bad now. But again, that's what happens. If you don't prepare them, and I think that's some of the discussions you have to start having early. And there's ways you can start integrating them into the world. You're allowed, if you homeschool your kids, the public schools can't prevent them from participating in the public school sports. That's one way to start moving them, to start integrating them, is to get them involved in sports. Some people think that, hey, your kids are going to miss out. No, they're not. They can't stop you in Idaho. So you can still send them to the public school sports, even though you're not sending them to the public schools. That's one way. But you do need to start getting them prepared, and you need to get them ready, because I think if going to the public schools, if they're going to go left, they're going to go left when they get out into the real world. They weren't quite ready yet. So
Wait, so
you need to think
this is
about
why
that as
we
part of
teach
the
worldview.
education. Yeah.
We have to teach worldview,
Yeah.
because you can teach people how to argue a certain way about conservative Christian values, but unless they understand the pros and cons of why they believe what they believe, then they get sucked into the other side really easily. Yeah, we got to do all this. We can talk more about what we can do is what you might be able to do as True Idaho News, and I'll help you with maybe doing some True Idaho News sponsored events.
I think that's incredibly important. And to that point, I was talking with my daughter. She's 26 years old, and she's got the 4-year-old, and we had a really deep and interesting conversation. This is one thing I love about my daughter. We can have all my kids, but we can have really deep conversations, and we talked about the differences as culture started shifting, and when in her age group, your Gen Z, millennial, as you're kind of making that shift, and why they're so messed up. And kids are messed up today. They're really messed up. But they came out, we came out in the 90s. I was a class of 92. And so I was a 80s and 90s kid. And yeah, but you watch the music culture of the time, and it was all, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, party. It's good times. And it talks about soft times making, or hard times making strong men, and soft times making soft men. And we definitely came out of the good times making soft men stage, and we saw that happen. But it was just party, go. And then we started watching this grunge, and you saw Nirvana come in, and kind of the suicide part of music, and how that suicide culture really started taking off, and the LGBTQ, and this is right. Then we had 9/11, and it became a warmonger. All of their kids, all of their friends, as they became adults, were being sent off to wars that we had no business being in. Conflicts, not wars, conflicts. And so they started seeing this, and they started getting mad. But that was the cloud that was over their head the whole time as they were moving forward into that state. And it was really an interesting conversation. I'm going to bring her on here. I asked her if she'd be willing to come on, and so we can have a generational conversation. And so be watching for that. I'm not sure. I think we're going to do that in a fairly close future, and just have that same just basically redo the conversation that we had last night, because I think it's important for us to know how they view how we got where we're at. Because that's going to be an important part to restoring this republic and piecing it back together. Is we have to understand, not our generation, we have to understand theirs a little bit better, and how they see things. But also out of that came some hope, because and I'll let her talk more about this, but how the medical, when she started, if she had let the hospitals do what they were going to do, we wouldn't have had a grandchild.
Wow.
And so, and she took her health into her own hands, and started changing what she was doing at home, what she was putting into her body, and she was able to successfully have our grandchild. And she went deeper into it than even I knew when we were talking last night. And I said, people need to hear this. They need to understand this. So, to that point, and talking about that, I think that's something that we really need to understand and see. So. I think we should be talking about homeschool. We should be talking about preparing our kids for the future, because if we're going to save Idaho and we're going to save our country, we have to start grooming our kids instead of educating them. We need to be educating them, because there's groomers and there's indoctrination stations all over the world, all over our nation right now. It's called the public education system, and it's not going to turn your kids into what you want.
People might say, "Oh, you're grooming." As I say, to me, I'm educating, because we have truth.
This is true. A very good point. Very good point.
I'm going to look at capitalism, the pros and cons of it. I'm going to look at communism with the pros and cons, Marxism with the pros and cons of it, the Islam with the pros and cons of it. All the different. That's what you do. You look at the pros and cons. You evaluate, and you see the truth of what we do and what we stand for is going to be the best choice. Is it perfect? No, everything is messy, but you take the best choice. Whereas those who are grooming are omitting the cons of something or the pros of something. They just try to manipulate in. And I see a big difference between grooming and educating.
Educating. And I think this is, and that's a good point. And that's exactly why I want to bring her on here, so that we can be educated as the wisdom, the elderly folks in the community. You know, we're coming into our 50s. You're in 50s and 60s and 70s. Those that lived a different life, and we can see why these kids are, to use her words, pissed off at us for what we've allowed our country to become, but also the steps and the measures that they're taking and the things that they're learning. There's a little bit of hope because they've gone back to homesteading, and they've gone back to being prepared. And what they're preparing for is what we keep talking about. The Civil War, and how are they going to survive when we screw this up that bad? And hearing that pains me, but it also gives me a little hope that just maybe the generation that they raise might be a little better and a little more educated. So it'll be interesting to get her on here.
The Republic, to me, this is making sure our local, just kind of nice bow on this, tie it all up.
Yeah.
We talked at the beginning about what we can do locally. And that's what you're talking about. What can we do locally? Because if, and perhaps when, the country balkanizes and falls apart, Idaho is still going to be here. The land's not going anywhere.
That's right.
We have to be able to maintain some semblance of sanity in our society. And if we're doing things right locally, then we can do that.
Yes. And we need to protect our children. And I think that's the number one focus needs to be protect your children. That means that you have to have a country for them to live in, and your grandchildren, and you have to have a state for them to live in. And because we don't do it, it doesn't exist, and
right,
it's done for. So thanks everybody. Thanks again, Daniel. I love these Wednesdays. I hope I don't know if the listeners and the viewers enjoy it as much as we do, but I know I sure enjoy these, and we'll keep on doing them just so long as God is allowing